All right, I think we can start. We have a little delay. We are going to talk about chatbots that we're developing at the federal level. I'm going to do this in English, but Dutch, French is also possible. Who are we? I am Bert. I work at Bosabot as an innovation designer. My background is in psychology and psychometrics, because I'm having a career in IT for a long time, and I'm now involved in the bot contract for the federal government.
And I'm Delphine. I also work at the FBS BOSA as a business designer. My background is in linguistics and digital humanities.
Hello, Tristan. So I'm a project manager working for BOSA, and I have an engineering background.
So yeah, today we're going to talk about chatbots, like conversational AI, and all will know that something happened in this sector. Was happening since several years already, but last year it really boomed with the release of ChatGPT. So the first question, of course, that everybody asks: will this replace traditional chatbots? Will this replace the way now how a chatbot is now built based on intent and a traditional way? This is our statement. This is our statement complete. We think that there is potential indeed that we will be using this much more. Okay, that we will using this much more. But for now, I think there are still some very big concerns that we have. First of all, what do you want as a government, but I think in general, any business, you would like to have your conversational agent telling the truth, or telling true things. For instance, if you have a person asking, how can I apply for a visa? And you know that they needs to go to the embassy for that. So you don't want your chatbot to send them to the postal office or something. So chatbots that can have an understanding of what the real answer should be is, of course, a good thing. You don't want the chatbot to lie. But this being said, if a chatbot can lie, it also has a concept of what would be the real answer. So it's maybe not so bad if your chatbot lies. You can just reprogram it to be able to tell true things. But the thing is that currently, generative AI, in fact, it was being mentioned by Peter Hinsen on Monday. Basically, it's a hyper-efficient bullshitter. It's telling, it's being constructed that it creates language, human language, which is very fluent. So you cannot really see that it's a bot. It seems to be fluent human language, but in fact, it's just based on statistics, and you do not have certainty about the truth of what's being created. This not necessarily is a big problem, because there are people who build careers on bullshitting, and you have politicians who get elected by doing that. But in each case, this is coming from research which was done. And this shows, for instance, to what extent GPT-4 is telling the truth. It's a measurement, truthful QA, which actually measures how much the chatbot mimics human falsehoods. And you see GPT-4, it's having now 58% of answers are truthful answers. This is after human feedback, so after reinforced learning with human feedback. Before, so just the algorithm gets a percentage of almost 40%, which is not very high, knowing that humans have on the same kind of test truthful level of 94%. Scaling up the models will not just work. Scaling up the model will only provide more bullshit, so more information that you do not know if it's true or not. So you always will need a human to make sure that it's true. That's now one of the things that in the models is not really being taken well care of. Everybody is using it. Everybody knows that you need to be careful about it, but still they're using it on a big scale. For chatbots, for government or for businesses, this is of course a problem. You don't want to have the chatbot telling false information. On bullshit, of course, there's a very recent research also out in which they asked the model, the GPT-4 model, to try to solve a CAPTCHA. So a CAPTCHA is to check if you're human or a machine. The model had access to TaskRabbit, which is an API in which you can ask people on a forum to help out. So he asked the human, can you solve it for me? The human then asked the bot, why are you asking this? Are you maybe a bot? And then the bot actually answered, no, I'm not a bot. I have a vision impairment that makes it hard for me to see images. That's why I ask. So this sounds like a lie. So maybe the model, if it evolves, has some kind of concept of how we can use bullshit to tell truth or lie. So this is very interesting to see. But okay, next to the fact that we cannot be sure if the generative AI is making things that are true, there are also potential harmful things. This is even worse. So if your bullshit becomes harmful, then you definitely have a problem, certainly also as government. This is another publication of OpenAI. I don't know how many of you ever have published something publicly in which you need to put a content warning that is very explicit, sexually hateful, or in violent nature. But they had to do, because they had examples in there how GPT-4, without being corrected, give answers which are very harmful or very assaulting in nature. Of course, this is a very ethical discussion. We're not going to have it here, but like everybody needs to be aware that there are people now checking what the model gives and then deciding on the fact if something is offensive or not. The fact that you decide that there's a group of people deciding what is being considered offensive is maybe already offensive on itself. If you're not in the Western world and you are not a real fan of the Western democracies, it's maybe offensive that the model is actually being corrected through Western values. That's just something to be very aware of, that it's not just AI, it's AI being corrected by humans, and humans always have some kind of moral standard. So this being said, I think everybody knows that you need to be very careful, but still it's useful. That's also why everybody is so enthusiastic about it. How can you use it? You, for instance, can just now ask the model, can you give me a conversation that can happen between a citizen and a chatbot of government? So you have examples of questions that people could ask, and you have examples of information that you could give. For instance, here it's giving an information how you can get a passport. It's not right. It says you need to wait 2 weeks. In fact, it's 5 days. So this also shows that the information given sounds really good and nice, and it sounds as a good answer for you as a citizen, but it's not correct. Another thing how you can use this, and it's actually being used like this, or already also by Soprasteria, if you need to train a current NLU model, you need to have examples, training sentences, and it's not always easy to come up with different training sentences. You can just ask this model, give me 100, 1000 different ways how somebody could ask this. And it just gives you that. And you can use this to train an NLU model. This is very useful. Another example, and this is something which the NMBS SNCB showed us, who actually has a very good chatbot, by the way. What you also can use, you see in chatbots that people ask different things in the same message. They have different intents. So a very long text, I complain about this, and this, and I want that, and that, and that. The model is very good if you put it in front. Before you do intent recognition, you just ask the model, what's the main thing that this user wants to know? And after you extracted that, you can go to your more old school NLU, link it to an intent, and link it to the answer that you want to have given. So these are very good cases of how you can already use it now. In general, this is also from Monday, Luc Steels, the godfather of AI in Belgium. His advice on current large language models is, first of all, it's too soon to deploy it in the open. It's in the research phase. We do not know all the consequences. We do not know what this will mean for our society. So he thinks it's too soon to put it open. I actually tend to agree to that. I think we should be more careful than we're now. But the reaction should not be more rules. The reaction should be more understanding. And also, of course, this is happening not in Belgium. It's not happening in Europe. It's an outside of Europe. It would be good if more diversity, more countries are really digging into this kind of technology and making sure that we are self-sufficient on that matter and not all dependent on the same party or the small bunch of same parties. I think these are very good advice. That's also why I repeat them today. So now to our case, what are we doing at Bosa? We are trying since now 1.5 years, bringing chatbot technology, conversational agents, a conversational interface to federal government, not only to Bosa, but to all services. We created a framework contract for that. And the goals that we have set for it is to have some efficiency gains for our public services, so that our frontline support, everybody knows, I think everybody has some experience with frontline support in which you try to reach them and they're not available, or you're in the weekend and then you suddenly think about something, but you need to wait for Monday to contact the frontline. Something that a chatbot could solve, so you can easily have access to frontline support. It would not only improve the life of citizens, but also for the frontline itself. It would be more efficient so that they can focus more on the real questions that a human still is needed for. And in general, so our goal, and actually we're focusing on that now, is to make sure that within federal government there is more expertise on this technology. And for doing that, we took some initiatives that are quite new. Delphine will say something more about that.
Yes, so in order to do the previous, we are launching the Bosabot Community. So this community will include a playground or a sandbox to test, to experiment. It will also include documentation to inform public servants, inform public citizens. It will also include information on the framework contract, on which Tristan will provide more information. It will also include tutorials. We are now currently developing an e-learning course. We will put that out publicly available, also for public servants. And there will be an innovation space. So that will really be the playground, the sandbox to test out, to experiment, to share experiences, share information, and just help Belgium, help the federal public services innovate and improve on this technology. So the objectives of the community are twofold: focused on people, focused on the technology. So for the people part, we are gonna set up a community of practice where people can share knowledge, share experiences, and really build an ecosystem of users of this technology. So we really, with this community of practice, we want to engage internal resources as learners, as practitioners of the technology. So we really need more in-house, not so experts, but also just people who are aware of the minimum information on this technology, which brings us to the tech part. So the community, the sandbox, will also be a place to demystify the technology, make it understandable, and not everybody has to be an expert, but just have a basic understanding of it instead of shying away out of fear. So our community will also be an environment to follow up on innovations, test out innovations, like the SNCB case, include new technologies to improve on certain intermediary steps and just improve the overall practice of the technology. And voila. So more in detail on our e-learning course, we are developing this on the eCampus. This is the online platform for federal government services, but it's open to public service, citizens. So the course we are currently developing will be split into two parts again. The first part will be a theoretical part where we give an introduction on basic concepts, basic technologies, and generic aspects of conversational AI. And then the second part will be more practical, more hands-on, to really prepare people to set up their own instance of a chatbot. And also at the end of the course, it will lead to a test. If you pass the test, you get a certification, and the certification gives you access to this sandbox, which we talked about. So the sandbox is really a place for people who are currently using conversational AI already to experiment, test out in an open and a safe technological environment. And it can also be for people who aren't sure yet if they want their own instance of a bot. They can test it out, they can try out the technology, and then potentially take up contact with our supplier for the framework contract, which Tristan will now continue on.
Thank you, Delphine. So you see that there are a lot of initiatives. First, well, one of the challenges that we have is to start building this community and to get a hand on that technology. We've been already doing some things now since a bit less than 1 year and a half, and since beginning of 2022, Soprasteria and Bosa are really working to push and to identify new use cases to help federal government to use this technology and bring value to the citizens. We just took a study, independent study on what were the best chatbots in Belgium today. That's dating for 2022. So Bert already mentioned the SNCB one, and we see on this list that there are two from government. So of course there are private companies that invest a lot in that technology, but as well government, and Ori from RVA-ONM is on that list, and I will talk a bit more in detail about this project that we are taking now since the beginning of the year to try to improve that chatbot Ori and to bring new features. So what do we bring, and what do we bring to federal services within that framework contract? The idea was really to be able to push the technology. So with Bosa, we provide this service to any SPF, and I will talk a bit more about who can leverage this knowledge that we have internally in Soprasteria, knowledge that we are sharing with Bosa, and experience on different projects to be able to test the technology. You will, if you go to the Bosa website, you have more detail on all the details on what is available within the framework contract. In a nutshell, the contract is divided in two parts. What do we bring? We bring first a digital platform, a SaaS platform that is called Alive Intelligence, that is cloud hosted, and that is available for all SPF that want to test the technology. So that's more the technical part. It's a platform that enables to build quickly virtual assistants or chatbots. And the second thing are services to help understand the technology, the methodology to have a project, build the use cases, identify the added value that it could bring, and if that's positive, we'll go for a project and try to test that technology. I'll go quickly over what we bring as a platform. So that's the post one part. It's a modular platform working with cognitive services from IBM Watson. As I said, it's hosted, cloud hosted. It can be on premise as well on our trusted cloud OVH, which is a strategic partner of Soprasteria, and we And we're very happy to have that with this hosting solution, because we can scale up very easily whenever we have more conversations with the bot. It's API compatible, supervised learning. That's important to mention. Bert at the beginning mentioned ChatGPT and all the fame that is around those type of virtual assistants. Here, what we are building for federal services is not a chatbot that knows to answer everything and that will take information from the World Wide Web. What we want to deliver is a virtual assistant that answers the questions of the citizen. So when you ask for a visa application, or when you want to change your ID card, the bot will explain you exactly the process and will not tell you can have that in 5 weeks and give a wrong information. So what we are building is a knowledge base and knowledge graphs that are, let's say, very strict to be able to give the right information. And we do supervised learning, because if we do automated learning in AI, we have very numerous examples where there is over time a bias and a deviation in the knowledge, and then you end up with something that doesn't bring any value to the citizen and can have let's say a counter effect than what was planned at the beginning. On SSA, we have an intuitive user interface. It's cheap, compatible. I will not go in detail on those topics. Who can benefit that? Well, you have a whole list, list of abbreviation. I will not name them all, but a lot of federal institutions can leverage this framework contract and can contact us or BOSA to test the technology and see if that has added value. Some SPF, some public institutions, scientific institutions, etc. What are we currently doing? So, as I said, we've been working now for more than a year with BOSA, and we have several examples that I can talk about. So there are ongoing projects and projects that are in a way in soft launch. So the communication on the bots were not made everywhere, but I can talk about those projects. We have an ongoing project for Safe on Web. Maybe you know the website, so keep tuned. Soon we will have that a small bubble popping up, and that will enable you to have information about cybersecurity issues, phishing issues that you may have if you receive an SMS that is asking you to pick up something at the post and you haven't ordered anything. Well, you can ask the bot if that's a phishing attempt, or well, any topics linked to this awareness around phishing and cybersecurity, which is very important for a citizen. That's ongoing. We have, as I said, as well an ongoing migration from an other platform, Watson, to our Alive Intelligence platform with Oribot. And the objective is to keep the ranking for the Oribot that was mentioned in the list that I showed before. Other initiatives ongoing as well for BOSA. So we have a bot available on the service desk of BOSA when you have issues with your EID card or all the authentication topics to access specific services of BOSA. Well, there is this help. It's an additional channel in parallel of the already existing one. Mails, I think there is a call center, but well, that's an additional channel. And what the bot brings is answers to the most asked questions, but as well the possibility to create a request or create a ticket. More technically, it's a ticket that is created behind you can create automatically via the chatbot conversation a request that will be handled by the front office afterwards. So that's a feature that we provide at the end of a scenario when the bot doesn't know how to answer. That happens, which is normal, and enables the citizen not to be stuck with a dead end and not having his or her answer, which might be frustrating, and that's what we want to avoid. And another example for Bosa is the Bosabot, which was previously on the seller.be website in the contact page, and now we are, as the website has been migrated to travaillerpour.be, the bot is here to help, let's say, future applicants for the federal services or public administrations answer their questions about the application process, the test dates that are available if they are not available, and anything that is around being a candidate for public institutions. We have other projects ongoing. You mentioned, Bert, the visa. Well, we are working as well for the Office des étrangers, but that's really new. So soon we hope to be able to help not only Belgium citizen, not only European citizen, but as well everybody that is interested to come to Europe and that wonders what are the processes to be able to get a visa or to be legally accepted in Europe. And that's the scope of that bot that will be available in several languages, of course. And last one specific one for the SPF Santé, and more specifically for the MEDEX, that is answering questions on how to register or how to declare your medical expenses if you are an employee of the federal administration, which is a bit more specific. We are adding more use cases to that one, so it's still in project as well, and we hope to be able to answer more and more questions on that topic. So you see there are initiatives ongoing. We are looking forward to have to find more use cases, and if you're interested, we will be very happy to help you. We are as well helping the Flemish region. So AI Flanders was participating to the European AI Week, but we're helping them as well with the same platform to bring value via this technology. So that's today. What's next? What do we see in the future? Well, today, mainly when we build a chatbot, it's based on a specific content. So as I said, what we are looking for is to answer the specific processes of a citizen, or to answer a specific question and not answer with generated content. What we want is to give the right answer. And today, generally, we have the user interface that is available for any citizen that you might have all experienced. And behind, we have one business content that is drafted, that has a conversational 3 different scenarios with different intentions. And we have that one-on-one relation. In the future, what we want to aim at, and the SSIE platform already enables that, but we need to find the right use cases and to build the bot correctly to do that, is to have that single interface, so one single point of contact, one single interface for the citizen, but have several business contents behind. So you may have the chat interface and talk to a bot that is specialized in IT processes, that knows how to tackle your authentications issues on EID, for example. But tomorrow we could plug as well another business content specific on HR processes or any other business content, but that the citizen, the user, would access via the same interface. Why does it bring value? It brings value because each business content, each bot behind is managed by a different team and a different specialized team that knows the processes. So we can have the business content that is owned by the business, by each department, and then only one single interface for the user. And that's how we see the future. So today we have, let's say, single projects. The vision would be to have one single point of contact for, let's say, all citizens that could answer several topics. Today, the effort, as I said, it's not, we're not building chatbots that create content automatically, like ChatGPT does, like all the virtual assistant that we know, Siri, Google Assistant, Alexa, all this family. They are building the answers based on the web, based on the information that they find on the web. We're not doing that. We are working and spending effort on building the content to make sure that the answer matches the question of the user. So today, the effort is really on building that business content. Building that business content. Tomorrow, I think that with these large language models that are appearing and with the possibilities and uses that we see from that, I think that the shift, we will shift from the content creation, so spending effort on that, to more content validation. Tomorrow we could use those models, for example, to with a lot of documentation or with a lot of questions that are available on a website, just say to the bot or to the algorithm, analyze that, build some scenarios, and then a business expert will validate those scenarios or will, let's say, modify them so that the answer is correctly given, or that the answer is correctly given. So the shift will be really from that creation to the validation of content. And today, that validation of content with the large language models like GPT is done, but there are so many data that it takes some time, and that's why we see some deviations in the answers. So we're looking forward to bring this technology to government via BOSA and to all other SPF that would be interested. And that's really a good challenge, and that's really interesting. And we come to the end of that presentation. Are there any questions for Bert, Delphine, me? Yeah. So I see questions in the chat. Let's start with the questions on the chat, maybe. Okay. Okay, so question on liability. If a chatbot gives a wrong answer to a citizen, can a government body be held responsible? Good question. No, that's a good question. Do you want to answer it, or do I?
I'm not a legal expert, but my take on this would be yes. I think it's we follow the same mechanism as on a website. Actually, on the disclaimers of our website, I know from the werkenvoor.be website, it's put that it cannot be used in a legal case. So it's not the legal information on the website. It doesn't mean that it needs to be correct, of course, but if it's a real legal issue because of a mistake on the website, I don't think it counts. And I think for the chatbot, it would be the same kind of reasoning. That's my take on it. But I'm not a lawyer, so don't take it as an advice.
True. By precaution, we tend to put a disclaimer. Of course, it's not. I mean, it's a moving technology, so we try to give the right information. But for the moment, we suggest to have a disclaimer at the beginning of the conversation. I'll take maybe one question here in the audience.
Okay, thank you. Within Unleashing Government Data in track 3, we will create a competence center. But one of the milestones is as well to create a chatbot on that competence center. And my question is more on how do we begin with that? How do we start, to build a chatbot on that competence center, maybe with the help of you guys, maybe across domain?
I can, well, the first step is to identify the content that you have, so the knowledge base that you have, and try to structure that. So that can be done with our help, with the help of Bosa, and via this content analysis, let's say, we can find and structure the different scenarios that we will be able to build, the different intentions, which is let's say the key concept behind the chatbot, and you don't need to start with a big project. I didn't talk about methodology, but we are pushing a methodology, let's say a try and learn methodology or proof of concept methodology. So without investing too much time, we can just see if that works. So I think it's both having the correct methodology applied to seeing if the use case is interesting, and that first analysis that will be able to tell you well, you have a viable use case or not, might be not a good idea. And we need to be here as well with Bosa to be able to say why not, but in our opinion that's not a good case. The traffic is not big enough, the content is too complex, or any other reason that might be a blocker, let's say. On timing, the question is on timing. That really depends on the content. Like, we can do things in less than 2 months, and we can have projects as well that are more than 6 months long. It really depends on the content and on. I don't have let's say a global answer on that. Do you want to comment?
Maybe to add on that, what we saw also with the chatbots that we already launched is that it's important that there is a follow-up. So it doesn't end when you put it live. It actually begins then. You need to take into account what kind of questions comes, the feedback of your users, and then improve it. And it's a continuous process. We now are involving our internal communication department closer to that, because it's a communication channel. It's a matter of making sure that people who ask questions get the right kind of communication, which is a shared responsibility for somebody who is within the communication department, and then the business owner who knows the knowledge and who needs to make sure that it's truthful. So I think one good advice, I think you can start very quickly. You can have a first version very quickly, but you need to be aware that you need to put it in as a real process, something that you're going to maintain on a longer term. This is something that sometimes, depending on the case, communication can do on itself and only regularly check if the information is still correct. But if it's like a fast moving kind of updated information, things that are changing a lot, then of course, within the business, there needs to be somebody available who also keeps an eye on it. So it really depends on the case. And then next to that, there's something that Delphine also shared. Sometimes it's also good just to have a better understanding what exactly it can do. And that's why we created a sandbox environment and the e-learning modules, because we notice this also happened a bit in the case of us. And we have some examples in other places that somebody says, okay, we should offer a chatbot. That should be a part of our offering because everybody is doing it. And what we then want to do when you dive more into it, like, okay, do you really need it? And make sure that you understand what you're doing, make you understand what kind of commitment this could be. And before you really take a decision, we put a lot of money on it. That's a good first step to do.
Yeah, and sometimes internal processes are not clear enough so that we can, in some projects, that use case generates as well internal questions on do we really know our processes and what the bot has to say, what the bot has to answer. Sometimes the question is not there as well. I'll take a question online. What is your point of view on the proposed 6-month pause in developing powerful AI systems, but also supported through an open letter from Belgian experts in the field? Does this will affect the timings methodology of the Bosabot?
No, it doesn't affect it. I think the proposed 6-month pause, there are two aspects to it. I don't think research should pause. Research should be done, but now it's being put out there as a commercial offering. It's being put out there as very easy to use by anybody. And I think there should be more warnings or more limitations mentioned to that. There's a lot of enthusiasm. I'm also very enthusiastic about it. But we do not have a clear view on the implementations. And for instance, from government perspective, if you have individual civil servants who are going to use this to answer to work more quickly and answer questions and just copy paste and put it out to citizens, then you have a problem. So I think it's not not very stupid to claim we should have a pause. I think there's no awareness. Okay, we should not just dive into this and let it happen. We don't need to have another kind of ending up in 6 months with a situation that you do not want. So it's good that people are creating awareness about this, but I think the pause should not be on the research for to be very clear.
Do we have a mic in the room? Or?
Go ahead. I can repeat it if you want.
Yeah. So my main question is related to BOSA. So if you speak about awareness, what is the role of BOSA? Because my view is that the citizens they are not aware of some of the dangers associated with called OpenAI framework, ChatGPT, which is based on public sources. Because what you speak about Bosabots, it's really based on private, on your data source. So what is the role of BOSA in providing kind of guidance towards the citizens on this regards? That's I think one of the question I have. The second question is, in your framework for creation of those bots, do you expose data? So do you expose the data richness on which you are working and the potential data lineage associated? Because for me that's very critical in my domain, which is healthcare data. You cannot expose, the reasoning behind the data lineage. You might tend to have the richness of data, which is small, for instance, and which will infer an answer from the conversational AI that will not correct at all, because the set of data is too small.
So so the question is about awareness. What is the role of BOSA in that topic for the citizen? Yes. And the second one is on the data that is exposed. What data and how critical and how do
kind of data lineage or metadata exposure that the users of the chatbot can see.
So maybe
or it's like a black box. I ask a question and I have an answer, but I don't know where it's coming from, which data set is used.
So maybe part of the first one to create awareness, that's the Bosabot community that we are trying to build, to do cross knowledge across all the SPF. Mm-hmm. So that's the first leverage that we want to use. Share that knowledge on project, on methodology, and on just the technology. So issues that one SPF can have, one public administration can have, or as well good practices so that this is shared via this Bosabot community. For the citizen, well, we try to the e-campus or the e-learning that we're trying to build is as well to bring more awareness generally on the technology, on the use cases, on the risks as well, on what are the potentials, where can it bring value, because sometimes there are good use cases and less good use cases, and as well try to understand what's behind in a simple language without going too much in the techniques, because we're not going to talk about what happens in the algorithm in the e-learning, but we're going to explain, let's say, the concepts. How do we build a conversation, a dialogue? What is we use natural language processing. So what are the elements that the NLP, so the AI part, the cognitive part, is identifying the question of the user to create information from that. So we'll try via the eCampus to share that info with all the citizens so that they know a bit more what's in it, let's say.
Yeah.
I would like to add to that. So for Bosa, what are we doing? Actually, this event that Nathaniel has put together, it's also to bring people. So there are people who are very enthusiastic about it. There are sellers in the AI for Belgium community, but there are also the ethical part. So we're trying to give this stage this week, but it's not only this week because they are connected via different networks, to let them talk to each other. So our role is not to enforce rules, but indeed create awareness. And we do this by making sure that people who are now from the ethical part saying, oh, we need to be careful, put them in contact with people who are just building this. And that's what we try to do. So I think this AI for Belgium initiative is one of the things we do to react to that. And on the fact of data, I think we have a long way to go. So I totally agree. But before this, there was the Unleashing Government Data track. So it's not related to chatbots, but even now, I don't know, as a citizen, I don't know what government, how they are connected with each other, what they're doing with the data. So we have initiatives to make sure that you have a better view of who has what data, who has what access, and what is happening behind the scenes. We should have the same indeed with the chatbot. For now, the chatbots that we have is all based on information that's also on our website. So it's basically the source that we can give is saying you can also find it on a website. It's maybe not as easy findable, but it's the same kind of information. It's public. But we're going to start with having it behind the FAS, the Federal Authentication Service, so you can log in and then you can have access to your files. And then we actually need the project of Benny also to make sure that we can also then say, this is we retrieve this kind of information there and this kind of information there, but we have a long way to go in that matter. But it's indeed something we should do.
What is good is that it's all based on transparency. So the intent is really to increase transparency for the citizens, which is very good. And I think that should be made even more, that should be made even more public what Bosa is doing in this regard.
Totally agree.
So there was a question online quickly on smart search module. I didn't go over the different modules of the Superstar Live Intelligence platform, but we can build chatbots, so building conversations, of course, but as well connected to a live chat, for example, do research on documents, do optical character recognition if we want to extract information from an image, and others. We can trigger RPA to, for example, create a ticket or trigger a process. So there are many possibilities. I didn't go in detail, but if you're interested to have more info, you can reach out Bert, Delphine, or myself.
There's one more question in the room.
Yeah. One more question in the room. Go ahead.
Yes, I would like to know if you have only data on the digital fracture linked to chatbots. Is it usable for average citizen, or are there some statistics on how much it can be used, or how efficient it is for average citizens? Are the lowest the people the fast sorry, further from the digital, can they use it and so on? Because, for example, the big four, they don't have, well, the GAFA, sorry, they don't have chatbots. So I'm always wondering, why do we try to have chatbots? I don't say we must not use them, but maybe not as a front line, or maybe be aware that they are not sufficient for public information.
Yeah. What we see there, because I agree to what you say, there is a sort of a paradox. So we did a research, and then we have people who are less digital telling us this is not a tool for us. This for me, it's too digital. And then you have people who are more digital who tells it's not for me because I can find my information without the need of a chatbot. So it's a very good question. What is the target audience for this? The way that we look at it, we don't think that now there is a lot of people waiting for this. I don't think it's something which is being missed in the market or by citizens. I think it's not the top priority to that sense. But for the future, we believe that we cannot predict the future, but we think we should offer this. If this becomes a normal way of conversation, so now you have graphical interfaces, if like a conversational interface would become more and more used, and if we only then would start trying to implement it, we would be too late. We would, as a government, again, be 2 years behind the private market. That's why we're doing this already now. Another thing that I would like to add to that is that, for instance, we're going to test with voice also. And for people who have disabilities, this is a better way sometimes to interact with government than needing to go to a website, which we also try to make as accessible as possible. But sometimes we believe that it could be helpful for maybe smaller groups. But as a government, we should not only service for the big for the large audience, but also for smaller groups that are special, have some special needs. So that's why we actually are investing in this.
Okay, thank you. Is it possible to have access to this research for other institutions?
Yes, I can share it with you. It's a small research we did. If I talk about research, what are we doing? We implement the chatbot, and then we do user acceptance testing. So we ask a diversity of users, but it was a small research. We don't have a big budget for that. Just to see, okay, are we on the correct track? And we are going to do this each time that we do important updates. But yeah, we could share it on the in the community. That's a very good idea.
Yeah. And inclusivity is one of the points that is really important as well. And normally when you interact with the chatbot is in natural language, written, or as mentioned Bert, via voice, which is the most natural way of
but
talking.
my public state cannot always really write. That's why.
And so
but
that's why we
have
voice, and we will be testing as well sign language, which is more complex as well. But that's one of the elements of the innovation track that we have.
And can you do you plan to have this in several languages?
We in Belgium we are always trying to aim at several languages. Yeah,
it's planned. Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot. I think we're ahead of time, so we can wrap up here. Thanks for joining. Bye bye.